Hey guys, welcome to Doc Liefeld Talks Comics, and for our final video of the initial assessment, I'll say, of Heroes Reborn, we're going to look at issue 1 of the Fantastic Four. This is written and drawn by Jim Lee, co-scripted and written by Brandon Choi, and inks by Scott Williams. So you have Reed putting these four into a mixer. No, I'm kidding. That's a Skittles ad. You get this really great Jim Lee artwork to open up, and you get to see Reed having a nightmare about what's going to happen when they go into space. That something terrible is going to happen with some cosmic rays, and it's going to light up their spaceship like a Christmas tree. It's going to cause people to get hurt. And so he was daydreaming while he was in the testing module for them going into space with a space shuttle so that they can go and test these cosmic rays. You get Jim Lee at the height of his artwork here. This is the Max Faraday, Divine Right, Wildcats, X-Men. You know, he was only, 4 years removed away from X-Men at this point? So for Rob and for Jim to come back was a big deal, because a lot of people figured that once they were gone to Image, they would be gone forever. And forever doesn't always last, because you still have Eric Larson and Todd McFarlane at Image. But most of the other founders have moved on to other things. Jim Lee is a high-ranking official at DC, the publisher. Then you've got Rob Liefeld off doing his own thing, having his own studios. He was working for Marvel up until they snubbed him a couple months ago. Just doing these things for fun. Jim Valentino, as far as I know, has retired from the comics industry. I'm trying to think who else was there in the beginning. Whilce Portacio didn't get to be an Image founder because his sister got ill, so his Wetworks book didn't come out originally. So anyway, to get back to our point, you have Lee and Williams at the height of their power showing off this amazing Sue Storm, okay? Not just the costume, but just the detail in her hair, the detail in the cross-hatching and the lines in her face. I've talked about it in previous videos before, but one thing that was always amazing to me was the anatomy that Jim Lee got. He could have those exaggerated people like Psylocke that had a one waist, but at the end of the day, they were anatomically sound. That's the word I'm trying to look for. But they were anatomically sound because Lee was originally going to school to be a doctor. So he understands how all the muscles and the sinews and the biceps and the triceps and how all of these things work in tandem and work together so that you get very dynamic posing, but you never get the over-exaggerated posing of a McFarlane or even a Larson or something like that. So Wyatt Wingfoot shows up in this first issue, and he's going to be the man in charge of this space mission. Meanwhile, you get to see the older brother and younger brother dynamic of Ben Grimm and Johnny Storm, who played chicken in a Jeep with a Lamborghini Diablo. And the girl says, "You're both crazy, stop the car, let me out of here." And Johnny Storm actually swerved and rolled the car. And he said, "I'm never going to live this down." So you get that same dynamic of family. Family has always been at the heart of the Fantastic Four. Reed and Sue are husband and wife. Ben is like the crazy uncle. And then Johnny Storm literally is the crazy uncle that catches things on fire. Ben Grimm is the strong man. Then you get to find out later on that somebody else is controlling Wyatt Wingfoot. I'm not going to say who, but he is controlling Wingfoot and Wingfoot's actions. That gets the Fantastic Four, or the would-be, soon-to-be Fantastic Four, thrown in jail. They make a break for it, decide to go ahead and go up in the shuttle themselves, and you still get this awesome artwork too with Jim Lee, where he's showing off fantastical things. Some artists can pull off spaceships, different cultures, different planets. Jim Lee would have been great back in his younger days on Green Lantern. Can you imagine seeing Kilowog, seeing all of those guys, seeing Guy Gardner, the Green Lantern Corps, all of those guys drawn by Jim Lee? Can you imagine how cool that would have been back in the day? But you get to see that the cosmic rays actually do hit the ship and start causing all sorts of pain, confusion, what's going on to me, I don't know why we're hurting, and then they crash into the Caribbean Sea. And one of the first people to figure out that he's changed is Ben Grimm. And he says, I'm some sort of fiend. I'm this rock creature. Detail, the level of detail on this book is just amazing. It's just crazy how much detail Jim Lee and Scott Williams could put into a book with torn clothing. You get to see the shading and the shadows across Ben's body. You get to see that he's sweating and has moisture coming from his lips. Just everything that brought excitement to those 90s comics. You don't see that level of detail in Jim's artwork anymore. I understand that he's got a day job, but that's the kind of artwork that people are coming to Batman Hush 2 for. You get to see Ben knock out this massive creature that is being controlled by the villain for this first issue, the Mole Man. So here every time they've done a new Fantastic Four #1, I've tried to read it. I can't get into it. I don't know why. It hurts my heart because it, before Spider-Man, was the first family of Marvel. It's what started the Marvel Age of Comics in 1961. But I cannot get into it. So maybe it was just because of Jim Lee's artwork that I got into it. And then later on, Brett Booth, who is very similar in style to J. Scott Campbell and Jim Lee and all of those Wildstorm and Image guys. But this book here, it held my attention. Every time I saw it on the shelf, I picked a copy up. I had no hesitation in picking a copy up. I never really had hesitation in picking up Iron Man or Cap or the Avengers until later on. And even later on in the Avengers, you got to see Ian Churchill, whose artwork was similar to Jim Lee because you got to see the cross-hatching and the detail and all of that. But at the same time, his figure work and his line work were just impeccable. So, but for this video, you get to see Fantastic Four #1, the first new issue in 1996. Jim Lee, Brandon Choi, and Scott Williams. If you guys didn't read these when they first came out, do yourself a favor and at least track down the first issue of each one of these. I was able to pick up the first issue of Iron Man today for about $5. So pick them up, you won't regret it. Thanks guys, we'll catch you next go around.